got incredible playing is Paul Chapman. And lucky for me, he's my second guest on my new series of videos during this COVID-19 era called Guitar Players in Isolation.
We've got an interview here with the one and only Paul Chapman, and we're doing it by Skype. So, be patient with us on the glitching. Paul, so great to have you on this.
Thanks, man.
Kind of a thrill to talk to you. I've been a fan of a lot of stuff you've recorded on for years. And, I've only really seen you live when you play with Lou Moore up in Newmarket, but pretty well played on every main country artist here in Canada.
So let's just start with what you're currently playing with. You're playing with the Western Swing Authority. A few years back, you were actually invited to play a private party for the management of Garth Brooks in Nashville. And the last album that you did called Big Deal, you had a guest appearance by Ray Benson, who's the leader of Asleep at the Wheel, one of the most well-known Western swing bands there is. So how did this band get started? Give us a little history about Western Swing Authority.
Well, it was kind of Shane Gousse's brainchild. He's one of the fiddle players in the band. Well, that was the deal talking about the Time Jumpers. He was watching a DVD of the Time Jumpers one night years ago. I guess it'll be 11 years this month that we've been together. So he was sitting around watching the Time Jumpers DVD and thought, well, why can't we do something like that up here, or do a Western swing thing? And so he put out a mass email to a bunch of players. I guess I can't remember now how many more than the 7 of us that he sent out emails to. But anyways, so the 7 of us just kind of all responded and went, yeah, sounds like fun. So he got in touch with Paul Weber at the Commercial Tavern about us using his place as somewhere to play. So for the first 7 years or so, we did every other Tuesday at the Commercial Tavern just to go play. And that's how it started. We didn't have a rehearsal or nothing. The 7 of us said, okay, see you Tuesday. And we just showed up and kind of started pulling some songs out of our hat and kind of went with it. That's exactly how it started. Just 7 guys agreeing to show up on a Tuesday night and play somewhere.
What an incredible stacked band that is. 11 members. Have they all been original the whole time through?
Pretty much, except the drummer. The drum chair's changed a couple of times. Charlie St. Dennis was the original drummer. Craig Bignell was in after him for a bit, and then Jim Boudreau's there now, and he's been there for the last quite a few years now. But everybody else is original.
So you guys have recorded 4 records, or albums, or CDs, or downloadable things, and you've won the CMA Awards every single year since 2013. I was kind of looking, it was like every year there's you guys. So I imagine your first album was out around that time?
We did the first album pretty quick within the first, you know what? I had one lying around here. Here's all dolled up. So let me see. 2012 for this one. So this would have been a couple of years before for the first one. The first one was just a real quick wham bam thing we did in like 4 hours at a guy's studio outside of Kitchener, including a pizza break. So we just cut it. We just cut everything live off the floor. The whole band just playing like we do live.
Yeah.
And since then, all the other albums have a little bit more polish and a little bit more time to. But yeah, you go back and listen to the first one. It's still pretty cool.
What's the breakdown on your stuff between like kind of Bob Wilsey covers kind of stuff and originals?
Well, we got quite a few originals now. Everybody kind of contributes. Shane and Stacy do a lot of writing, trying to keep it in that vein. So we're doing a lot of traditional tunes, but we're doing a lot of originals that are still in that traditional kind of Western swing kind of vein. So it's still keeping within the genre, but just newer songs.
So I mentioned it on the intro to this. You did a private party in Nashville for Garth Brooks and his management team. You gotta tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, for Bob Doyle. Yeah, it was his 70th birthday party, and we got an email from somebody at Major Bob, which is the name of the management company that he runs. I guess they wanted a Western swing band for his birthday party, and I guess the Time Jumpers weren't available. So Garth's fiddle player, Jimmy Mattingly, said, "Hey, call these guys. They're great." I guess him and Stacy have worked together in the past, and I guess he's a big fan of the band. So the Time Jumpers weren't available, so he said, "Call these guys. They're great." So they called us, and we jumped in a van and headed down there to play his birthday party. So it was cool. Steve Warner was there, and Garth and Tricia were there, and all kinds of industry people, and it was fun. It was kind of cool to do.
Wow. Did Steve Warner sit in? Did you get to play with him?
No, but I was getting the nod from him during the night. So.
I'm sure you were. You're an incredible player. So, who can you name drop a few? Who else was at that party?
I don't know. Those are the people that I recognize that I knew, but there was a lot of mostly like industry people and management people and stuff like that. The guys from Garth's band, like Bruce Boughton was there playing his steel player, and the guys from Garth's band and that kind of stuff. But
that's so cool. Yeah, I've seen the Time Jumpers maybe 4 or 5 times down there. I mean, Vince Gill's with them, so you kind of if you're down there, I always kind of made sure I was there on a Monday because I think that's
sure. Yeah, of course.
Incredible. A guy his stature, he always makes himself available on a Monday night,
Yeah, I know. It's great. I love it.
Obviously, he loves it, right?
Yeah. To play.
So let's flip back all the way back. So I was kind of surprised to read this. You're born up in like Baffin Island.
No, I was born in Parry Sound.
Okay.
When my dad first started with CBC Radio, it was up in Baffin Island in what is now Iqaluit. It was Frobisher Bay back then.
Right.
But no, that was I was up there for a year for grade 5, but no, I wasn't born there. I was born in Parry Sound and moved around a bit, but my main hometown is Sudbury.
Right.
That's where I lived from like grade 6 on.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you, that you were a Sudbury boy. So when I put this kind of thing together, this Guitar Players in Isolation, my first guest was Gino Del Sol, and I didn't know either that he was from Sudbury. And I think we're all within 5 years of the same age. So did you know him from around there?
Yeah, we've crossed paths a few times. Yep.
So it's like these guests tie into each other. It's
yeah. And then I moved to LA, and there's a whole contingency of Sudbury musicians that live in LA too.
So nobody wanted to work at Inco, I guess, hey?
Yeah.
Get me the hell out of here.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to carry around the little steel lunchbox every day back and forth to work.
So, I guess it was kind of in Sudbury when you were of the age when you started playing. You started playing.
It was a great place to play when I was growing up. I started playing full time in bars, and what I do now when I was 15. And back in those days, there was all kinds of 6-night, 7-night a week clubs you could play. Like there was 4 or 5 places in town that were 6, 7-night a week gigs. So I played a lot, and I was still in high school, obviously, and doing my homework on the breaks and stuff in the bars and till 1 o'clock and getting up and going to school. But it was a great town to grow up playing in. It's always been a really musical town, and it was a great place that you could always go around and watch other bands and see other guys play, and it was a great place to grow up.
And that's one of the cool things about kind of playing and growing up in a small town. There's just not a lot of bars to go to, so everybody's kind of goes to the ones that are there. It's actually a lot easier to get a good crowd in a small town than in a big city like Toronto, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a great place to grow up playing.
So I read that you kind of got into music from your dad, playing bluegrass, kind of flat picking, and some mandolin. So yeah, tell us about that.
Well, that's how I really started playing guitar. My dad was a banjo player, bluegrass banjo player. So I just learned some chords just to strum and accompany him sitting around the living room at home. So that's how I first started learning how to play, was just kind of strumming and then just kind of went from there. It was bluegrass stuff, so eventually, you start like, and Tony Rice and all the other guys, and started. Oh, yeah.
It really makes sense that you started off with exposure to bluegrass, because you can kind of hear it in your playing now. You're very fast. Your articulation on the up and down strokes is so clean and precise. So it makes a lot of sense to me that you started in that flat picking bluegrass type of a thing.
Yeah, the bluegrass stuff. Yeah, for sure.
I'm like 2% of the player of you, but the only similarity, well, two similarities. We got the same hair, and I started playing with my dad it was more of like weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff like that when I was 15, 16. He was playing piano and singing, and he kind of had a little jazz band, like a sax player, bass and drums, and then I was just kind of comping chords. Yeah. He had the book on his piano, and I kind of watch over.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
and then basically that's where our similarities stop.
So at 16, you started playing the bars, doing the matinees, because you weren't really old enough. Is that kind of about when you made the transition from doing the bluegrass kind of stuff to the electric, Telecaster, chicken picking kind of stuff?
I had sort of been doing both for the longest time. Like I started playing acoustic and bluegrass, and I was around 10 or so. But then around 12, I started, because my dad was the main one responsible for me doing what I do. He was always a music guy, and it was always here. He turned me on to James Burton and Albert Lee and all the guys from back then. And so I kind of went hand in hand, the bluegrass stuff with the chicken picking stuff. So I always kind of played both. I did play electric. I didn't just start when I was 15. I had been playing electric for a few years prior to so my dad would take me down to some of the bars in Sudbury. I'd have Saturday afternoon matinees, and my dad would take me down. And this was when I was, like 15, 16. I couldn't get in the bars any other time during the matinees. I could. So he'd bring me in, and there was one Saturday he brought me to the National Tavern there in Sudbury, and just to get up and jam with the band that was playing there. So I got up and jammed a couple tunes, and the singer on the break came over and said, "Hey, our guitar player is leaving in a couple weeks. If you want to come play with us." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And that's what I've been doing ever since.
So was that band that hired you, were you doing just like mostly traditional stuff, Waylon, Merle, Cash, that kind of stuff?
Pretty straight ahead. There was a guy named Charles Simon. Charles Simon and Solitaire was the name of the band. And he did that. Yeah, it was pretty traditional. Merle. And for back then, there was like T.G. Shepherd, Ronnie Millsap, all that kind of
sure,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I'm guessing, was your first guitar and a Telecaster? I know you got. We'll get to your thin line a little later, but what was it? Do you remember your first one when you were at that age?
The first one that I was a tele copy. It was called a Lero. It was called a Lero, and I got it at Music City in North Bay. It was a Telecaster copy. That was the first one I had. And then what happened after that? I had that Lero copy first, and then I had one of those PVT 60s. The great.
Oh yeah.
It weighs 1,000 pounds. They had the matching bass, the T40, and so I had one of those PV guitars, and I liked that. It was a great guitar. I think my cousin's got it now, but what happened after that? I had an El Degas Les Paul copy, and then I ended up with a 66 Tele for the longest time that I was playing for the most part around town.
Okay.
And you pick up other stuff. I had a Strat, a couple of other things, but
yeah.
I sold that Tele when I moved to LA just for money to live when I moved to California. So
you're kicking around in bars in Sudbury, learning your chops, woodshedding, getting really good. And then at some point you just say, like, I want out of here. And you decide to go to Los Angeles.
Just packed up a bag of underwear and a Tele and I got my driver's license. I took 2 lessons from a guy up in Sudbury and did my driver's test, got my license, and moved to LA and bought a car and a map.
Wow. So you had full support from the folks?
Yeah. And there was a couple of guys I had been in contact with from Sudbury that were down there.
Okay. Yeah.
Albanum and Dan Santoro. So I had talked to them from home and said, hey, thinking about coming down. So they gave me a bunch of names. They were great. They gave me some names and numbers of some guys to call when I got down, and told me where lists of names of the bars and to where to go sit in and stuff like that. And so basically that's exactly what happened. I just packed up and left. I saved up some money and bought a little car when I got down there, and a map book of a big Thomas Guide map book of LA, and it's like 2 inches thick. And then just started finding out where the country bars were and just started going around sitting in.
So was there consideration between Nashville and LA? It's usually, those are the kind of the two main spots, maybe like New York, but New York was kind of a jazzy thing. So LA and Nashville, how did you decide on LA?
Because I was playing a lot of rock stuff too back there, the 80s rock stuff,
Okay.
So I wasn't sure at that point if I just wanted to play country.
So you had hair back then?
Oh God, I had way too much hair. That's why I shave it off now. I'd look like Sean O'Grady if I let it grow. Without due respect to Sean, I love you to death, buddy. But I'm just saying, and not that that's a bad thing, but that's exactly what it would look like. I keep getting people, do it, let it grow, let it grow, let it grow. No way.
Maybe I'll edit in a picture of Sean. It's quite the
So I was kind of going over your bio, and it looks like things like clicked really quick for you when you got down to LA. I'm reading here that you started subbing in for Jerry Donahue at the Palomino Club in LA. Were you in the house band there, or what was the story there?
Oh no, it wasn't a house band. It was just my first gig, my first paying gig.
Oh,
I had been in LA for, I don't know, maybe. I got down there in January, and it was right around the time of the NAMM show. So the guy the people that I was staying with that were originally from up here lived in the people I was staying with when I first moved to LA. He was a good friend of James Burton. So that was the kind of connection there from back home. So I showed up, and we went to the NAMM show. He took me down to the NAMM show in Anaheim. So I was kind of hanging around the Fender booth playing this one. Fender had kind of reissued this is like 89 or 90, something like that. But Fender had kind of come out with a new batch of those Paisley Telecasters, the James Burton.
Oh yeah, I had one of those.
Paisley. Yeah. They had not just the pink one, but they had all different models of it.
Yeah.
With the 3 pickups in like a Strat configuration. So I was just hanging around at the Fender booth at the NAMM show, just kind of noodling around on one of these Burton Tellys, and so Jerry Donahue was there, and I knew him from the Helicast and from just doing his thing from Guitar Player magazine, and we just start kind of jamming together at the Fender booth. So he goes up. So a few minutes later, he goes, "So what are you doing next Wednesday?" I said, "Nothing. I just got to town. I'm looking for gigs." He goes, "Well, I need a sub at the Palomino next Wednesday with this guy named Charlie Mitchell. Can you do it?" And I went, "Absolutely, I could do it."
So how long were you in LA before that actually happened? That's amazing.
Week or two.
That's pretty lucky stuff.
But it was just from having been at the NAMM show, sitting at the Fender booth, fiddling around on one of the guitars.
Yeah.
I've got a great picture somewhere. I think my mom might have it of me and Albert Lee and James Burton and Jerry Donahue together all at the NAMM show at that Fender booth there. But was like, yeah, sure, I'm not doing nothing. I just got to town. So Gary and I became pretty good friends after that. I used to go see him play a lot. And
are you still in touch? Yeah.
I haven't talked to him in a while. Actually, I should look him up again. It's funny, over the last few years with Facebook and stuff, I've been getting more and more back in touch with guys from down there that I haven't seen since then,
So were you backing up people? Because it's kind of a historic type of a bar, and it's just an A-list of guys that were playing there. I was wondering if you had an opportunity to back any of them up, right?
Well, that was just a showcase night. There was a bunch of different bands, and I did a showcase thing with Charlie for his part of the evening. But I used to sub in a lot on the Monday nights. They used to have this talent night thing on Monday nights. But the band was like this stellar band. It was like the house band for this talent night was like most of the guys from the Desert Rose Band. It was J.D. Maness and Steve Duncan and Skip Edwards, Dwight Yoakam's keyboard player, and a guy named Harry Orlov was the guitar player. But I used to sub for Harry a lot with those guys.
John Rowland was in the Desert Rose Band. That's right.
Yeah, working with him and doing some sessions with. There was a NBC show years ago called Hot Country Nights.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Yeah. Well,
yeah, I did all the theme music for that. John Hobbs and JD Maness, the steel player, they wanted me in on the. I was supposed to actually be on the show in the house band, backing everybody up on this thing. It was an NBC thing.
Right. Yeah.
But there was legal affairs issues that happened, and I guess there was a legal affairs guy from NBC that came down to the studio when we were cutting all the theme music. And said, okay, because I was Canadian. So he said, okay, well, I'm going to push this through to so-and-so at NBC and get your papers and stuff like that. And I guess we did all the theme music stuff, but I never ended up getting the show because I guess whoever the suit and tie guy was at NBC just said, I don't have time for this, hire an American.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you if you played with guys on the show. It was aired 91 and 92. I'll just drop some names here because it's quite incredible, the list that was on there. Clint Black, Travis Tritt, Dwight Yoakam, Reba McEntire, Alabama, Alan Jackson, Merle Haggard, and the list just went on. So yeah, that's a shame. I thought maybe you were kind of in the backup band and got to play for a lot of these guys.
But I watched that show every week for the year and listened to myself on the themes and all the little bumper spots coming in and out of commercials and stuff like that. And but I never actually did make it to be on the show. But oh yeah, it was just a live variety show. There was all kinds of people on it.
Yeah. So when you were in LA around the same,
it didn't turn out that way for me, but it was a lot of fun doing the sessions. Though I was in the studio in Hollywood and looking around, going, "Oh, well, there's John Jorgensen and there's J.D. Maness and there's Steve Duncan and John Hobbs and Dennis Belfield, all these heavy LA studio guys and me doing the sessions for this stuff." So it was a lot of fun. It was great. Those guys were wonderful. I had nothing but good experiences with living in LA, and all the players I met, nobody had any attitudes or nothing like that. I was welcomed, and it was come on up and jam, come on up and play. It was great. Everybody was really great with me.
Certainly sounds like LA was the right move for you. I mean, you kind of got down there and made contacts really quick and got going and just started working with the who's who. It was an incredible story. Yeah, country music was going pretty strong back then in the 90s. So from your bio, it sounds like around that time is when you met up with songwriter producer Jerry Fuller, famed songwriter, just tons of hits and artists in the 50s and 60s. Kind of when I was Googling him, there's not a lot on the internet about him, but most of the big name songs that were mentioned were kind of from the 50s and 60s. But I did read around 1990 he did discover Colin Ray, and I kind of think that's kind of the time when you started working for him. Yes, and there was a guy around LA named Eddie Dunbar, who was a phenomenal bass player, singer, that was playing around in a band in LA. And I used to work for Jerry doing demos and stuff at his studio. And it was Jerry Fuller and Bob Montgomery in Nashville that had kind of got Colin Ray going. So they were doing the same kind of thing with Eddie. So they signed Eddie and we did a record with Eddie, which was we did this great album that never got released. Me and Brent Mason played all the guitars on it, and there's me and Paul Franklin trading off solos on songs and stuff, but the whole album never even made it off the shelf.
Oh my God.
So, but anyways, so Eddie kind of started going the same course as Colin Ray. They got him the same manager and started working us doing casinos and stuff like that. And that's how I ended up doing the casino stuff for about 3 years too.
That's amazing that you were in like the same circle so quickly when you got to LA, that you're traveling around with guys like Brent Mason and Paul Franklin and Hobbs.
Man.
Yeah, John Hobbs is a great friend of mine. We played thousands of records together in LA.
That's
In
awesome.
fact, he was up here with Vince Gill a few years ago, and he emailed me going, "Hey, I'm going to be at Casino Rama with Vince." He says, "Bring a telly. I'm trying to talk Vince into coming to get you to sit in with us."
Yeah. Well,
So I went and I brought my telly, but I guess it had been it was the first show Vince had done live for like a year, and he was a little nervous about it. So I didn't end up getting to sit in, but Hobbs was working on it. He was working on Vince to have me come up and sit in with him.
You might have showed Vince up a little bit. That was.
I don't know about that.
Well, it sounds like you were just killing it in LA, like, you know, all these contacts, all the top players, and then you came back to Canada. What transpired that made you wanted to come back up here?
Well, I was doing the casino thing at that point, and we were playing with Eddie, and stuff had kind of fallen apart with Eddie with his deal. So I had a couple of months off. I was going to go. I hadn't seen my family back here in years, like 3 or 4 years. So I had like a month or two off, I think it was, between bands. I left Eddie's band. I was going to start with another casino band, but I had like a month, or it was like a month and a half or something before I could start with them. So I came back to visit, and ended up staying. I just started working right away and ended up doing sessions, and I had George Fox's gig and all kinds of stuff just started falling into my lap when I came back to visit. So I just ended up staying. And it was all stuff. It was all good work that I didn't have to have a green card to do.
So was it just like a few producers that kind of caught wind of you and started calling you? How did your name get out so quickly when you came back in from LA back up in the Toronto area?
It was mostly Rick Hutt at Cedar Tree at first. I had dropped off a CD to him just because I heard about him, just to start doing some sessions. And then I just, the way it is, just word gets around or whatever, and that sort of deal. But yeah, I just came back up to visit and ended up staying.
Yeah, that's amazing, Paul. Just for the listeners and the viewers there, I just want to drop some names here of just a small selection of who you started playing with when you came back up here. George Fox, Jason McCoy, Beverly Hood, Julian Austin, Aaron Pritchett, John Landry, Michelle Wright, the Wilkinsons. I mean, it's just kind of the who's who of Canadian country. I mean, you were basically the picker on all this stuff. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, I've done my share of playing with a lot of them, that's for sure.
So since we're calling this series Guitar Players in Isolation, let's jump into some guitar stuff. So, I mean, you're kind of like the Canadian version of Brent Mason, just that fast, clean chicken picking. And, the chicken picking was really popular at that time. And, I mean, it's kind of coming back, but it was a big thing then. So kind of a friend of both of ours that I kind of got to know through some visits to Nashville and now through Facebook and all that, Mike Bork. I asked him, he's a huge fan of yours. I mean, I think the last time we were down there, I went for a ride with him in his Prius, which was just jam full of steels in the back. And he started playing a bunch of stuff that you played on in his car. Anyway, his favorite stuff was stuff you did with John Landry and the second album for Julian Austin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I dug that stuff up before yesterday, and I was like, "Holy cow!" Like that's like some. I'm gonna put some of that stuff in this interview. I'm gonna break to.
Okay.
There's one.
Then I can watch it and remember it.
It's I mean, you're basically you're the Canadian Brent Mason. I mean, that's basically.
It kind of seemed like it there, yeah.
So there's this great tune you did with Julian Austin called "Holding On for 8." I was trying to Google it to see if there was a video, but I couldn't find anything. So I'm just going to play you guys a clip, just off of YouTube. It's there's no real video. It's just a picture of the album cover. But check this out, guys. This is amazing stuff.
He's gonna be the best no matter what it takes. He's holding on for 8. Cowboy up! Ah!
So that's just a killer example of what Paul was recording on people's tracks. But I know you play lots of other styles. But is that kind of what you were known for at the time? Is that why, was that you were kind of like the first call if somebody up here needed a track, kind of with that type of chicken picking kind of a feel?
Yeah, I suspect so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always played other styles and other stuff, but
Sure.
yeah, definitely, because that was a lot of that going on back then. There was a lot of chicken picking on a lot of records back then. I'd always done that. I've been chicken picking since I was 12.
Awesome.
But it was in the 90s,
I think that was
earlier than that, but when it, like all the Albert Lee stuff and all the Emmylou Harris records and that kind of stuff was always great. But then with the 90s stuff, Brent Mason stuff and all those other guys like this, all of a sudden there was chicken picking on everything back then, and it was great. The 90s was a great decade for chicken picking, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was a good time. I mean, I have the Sirius XM in my car. I think it's the channel Prime Country, which is kind of a lot of kind of late 80s, 90s country, and it's I think if you listen to it, it's like 90% of the guitar work on that channel is Brent Mason. I mean, all that stuff coming out there, and then the stuff that was just really popular at the time, Alan Jackson and Brooks and Dunn. I mean, they always left space for solos. Like it was just, it was like some hot guitar solo, and then they let the band kind of, trade fours kind of with the fiddle or the pedal steel and back to guitar. It was a cool era for guitar, that's for sure.
It was, yeah, totally.
Yeah, the other one I saw that I'm going to throw a clip on here for everybody. John Landry's Long Gone and Forgotten. Holy
Right.
that stuff is amazing. It's
My trouble is it's forgotten me.
That's a funny one too, because for the longest time after that song came out, I had guys that were pulling their hair out trying to figure out the solo, but the song is in F, so I just capoed up one and played an E.
Oh,
I had all these guys trying to figure out how to play it in F without the capo. Without the capo, I was like, it's not going to happen, man. I just capoed it up and played an E. Everybody's like, oh, no way, man, no way. It's like, well, yeah, who wants to play an F?
Yeah, pretty hard to do a bunch of open string type of stuff in F, eh?
Well, that's a lot of the thing of chicken picking, right? Is a lot of open string stuff.
Hey, Paul, I think what I'll do is I'll just take a little time, and we're going to just spotlight some of the great songs you played on that just demonstrate your incredible kind of chicken-picking style of playing. Another cool track I was floored by was one done by Jason Blaine called Heartache Like Mine. The ending is just killer. I mean, the producer or Jason himself, I guess, encouraged like a nice little jam out on the ending. It's just great how you guys trade back and forth between, guitar, fiddle, and pedal. It's great stuff.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, it was a while back, but I remember. Yep.
So yeah, because that one, it was kind of like Alan Jackson-esque sort of thing, because the ending, he gave you like about 2 minutes of jamming on that thing. It was
Yeah.
I don't hear that much anymore. Everything's like under 3 minutes on the radio now.
Yeah, it's just different time right now, but we'll see. It might come back around again.
Do you remember who was playing on that with you, on that ending?
Yeah, there was quite a few years ago. I did a couple of 3 albums with him, so I can't remember. No, you know what? I can't remember where, if that was at John Bailey's place. It might have been.
Were most of these sessions in Toronto, or whereabouts were you?
Yeah, I think the bulk of Jason's stuff was in Toronto. Yeah.
Another one I want to share is Jason McCoy. I Feel a Sin Coming On. I think you were on the whole album. I can't remember what the name of the album was. Just killer.
Lord have mercy on my soul, I feel a sin coming on.
Oh, that's from Sinners, Saints, and Angels.
Oh, okay. Holy
That's
cow.
the name of the album, Sinners, Saints, and Angels, I believe.
Because I think Jason's a great player.
He is. He's a great player.
Yeah, and a great performer. Good singer, great stage presence, and he'll run around the stage and he'll play some pretty complicated stuff on the guitar.
Yeah, he's a great player.
While he's moving around.
So given Jason's a player and a pretty damn good one, when you recorded on his album, did he give you kind of direction, or did he just, he just hired you because he wanted to hear you and you kind of just did what you felt made the track?
No, he said, "Hey, I got a serious barn burner for you for this album." I was like, "Okay." So they just pretty much let me do my thing. Jason's a player, right? So
Yeah.
so that was fun with that. That's me yelling in the intro at the count off at the beginning of it too. I did that for fun during one of the bed takes, and he started yelling the count in, and he goes, do that again. We're going to keep it and use it on the album.
Oh,
So they did. So every time you hear that song, that's me yelling in the count in at the beginning.
All right, I'm gonna have to go listen to it again.
But yeah, he did. He pretty much, they just let me go.
All right, another tune for you guitar players to check out would be on Aaron Pritchett's a tune called John Rowland Wood. You guys gotta check this out.
Look out now.
Oh, yeah.
Same kind of stuff. It's all that super fast lightning speed.
Yeah.
I mean, every guitar player loves that stuff. And
It's fun. It's fun.
yeah. And, well, it's so admirable to listen to when it's done like you did it, because you're so clean and precise. It's you gotta, and we're gonna.
That's the bluegrass part.
Yeah. Well, when I realized that that's where you started, it kind of made sense to me, because it's that you're so clean on the up and down kind of fast picking. It's you're not doing a lot of like hammer-ons and slurs and stuff. Like you're attacking them, and it's
either flat picked or the nails. It's usually a combination of one or the other. Everything's picked. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you do hybrid pick, that's for sure too, right?
Yeah.
Doing a lot of stuff.
But everything's picked somehow. Yeah.
The part of picking every note, whether it's your fingers or your flat pick, because you're a hybrid picker. A bit of a girly question: do you get your nails done?
No, they're gel nails. I do them my own self.
You do it yourself?
My wife. Yeah, my wife took the nail course years ago, and she was gonna do stuff out of the house, but never ended up doing anything. And so she just showed me how to do it. So I just do my own.
All right, you got to do a FaceTime a little later on how to live in this COVID area, because I do get them done, but I just go down to the street to a local salon that's like 5 minutes from my house.
I used to do that when I had the acrylics done, but then she just showed me how to do it. I just do my own. It took a while though, because I have to use the brush in my left hand, and I'm not left-handed, so it feels like someone else is doing my nails.
You got the ultra light thing and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you, man. Hey, you got to, But
I have a whole little travel kit for bringing on the road and everything.
I think I got about another 2 weeks left on these, and then I'm going to be in trouble. But yeah, it's a weird time here with the COVID. I mean, I think women, they're going to have that little white skunk stripe as the roots start to show, and us guitar players will have some funny looking nails.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to be in trouble. So let's. I'll put some credits up there of some of the guys you played with, so people can check it out, because it's just the list is huge and the recordings are just amazing. So
thank you very much, man.
I remember when I kind of got into the country, which was a little later. I didn't grow up as a kid with country in the house. But I did, I can't remember when it was, but it was a VHS tape. It was Brent Mason. It was like a Hot Licks video. And he was kind of like the number one guy that was touted for country guitar, right? Because he was on the radio all the time. But it's not like you could just go to Sam the Record Man or something and find a Brent Mason record. You had to kind of figure out who he played on, and then you bought those records, and you had to wait for the guitar solo. So anyway, so that's kind of why I thought I'd try to help some guys out. With featuring some of these songs that you played on, which just has some incredible picking. So that way people can go out and listen to some of these artists and hear your great solos.
Yeah, well, that's how it was when I was growing up. You always went out and bought records because of who was on them.
Right. But it was trickier. Now you just Google them, but it was trickier then to figure out how to listen to the guy, right?
Yeah.
So like same for you, Paul Chapman doesn't have a CD of just hot picking. You got to find out the artist that you played on. So anyway, there's a bunch of guys that we just chatted about. If you want to hear Paul play, go on YouTube and check out some of those guys and just listen to it, or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your music.
So let's get right to guitar now. I mean, every picture and every little video I've seen of you or you post through your social media, it's that thin line telly. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's just the main telly. I played. I was playing a Strat before that, but I was living in Reno and was telly hunting. I was shopping for another telly, and was at Bizarre Guitars in Reno, which is a great music store. And they have a huge wall of 2 rows of nothing but tellies. So I played all kinds of them. I played G&Ls and I played like, $2,000 or $3,000 custom shop tellies that sounded terrible. Just kind of went down the road, played a bunch of them. And then finally it was like, okay, give me the one with the F hole. Let me try that one. And it was like $575. And I plugged it in and I hit the open A string and it rang like a Steinway. And I went, that's it. Put it in a gig bag. I'll take it. And that was, it just rang. It just rang and rang and rang. So
this is when you were in LA and
in Reno, when I was living in Reno.
Okay, doing the casino gigs, like you
said.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah. Do you have it? Is that it in the corner there, right beside you?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you show it? I know we're on Skype here with kind of limited connection here, but so you've had that? How many times have you
had that telly? It's kind of a Frankenstein. It's got all kinds of.
Oh, it's
got lots of wear and tear on it. I finally got the frets redone last year for the first time. And
oh, really? That was it? But you've only had it redone once?
Yeah, and it was in dire need too. Believe me.
I saw a couple pictures.
Frankenstein. Like I've got like Spurzel locking tuners on here and the drop D hip shot thing, an LSR roller nut here, just trying to eliminate anywhere where the strings can catch and create tuning nightmares, because you know how it is. I put the middle pickup in myself just because I like the out of phase Strat tones, and back then this was my main guitar. I didn't want to cart multiple guitars around, so I just put the middle pickup in a 5-way switch just to be able to get the Strat tones. The original, the bridge pickup that was in it went microphonic on me, so it was squealing and just went south. So Dave Kalmusky found me this one. This is an original 63 Telly pickup in the bridge, which is worth like apparently ridiculous amounts of money right now if you part out guitars. I only paid like $125 for it at the time, but this was 20 years ago. But so that's an original 63 in the back. But pretty much, I put the Goto bridge and the graphite saddles and that kind of stuff. And oh yeah, this thing is all beat to shit. There's drywall screws in the jack plate here.
Love it.
Playing that, I was doing a casino gig one night years ago, and when I changed this, the original Telly jack plate, is that little cup thing, round thing that's in. It kept coming out.
Yeah.
So I put this plate on. But the screws that came with it were just 4 little wee tiny short little wood screws. Yeah. And this is mahogany. So they just stripped. And I was playing a gig, doing a casino gig in Reno. And I stepped on my cord and accidentally pulled the whole jack. The whole jack came out of the guitar. one of the wires came undone. So I was down for the count. So I called a maintenance guy from the casino and said, I need a soldering iron quick. I got to solder my guitar back together so I can go back up and play. So he brings me a soldering iron. I said, I need to put better screws in there. Have you got anything bigger than the ones that were in there? And he said, well, I got these drywall screws. They're 2-inch drywall screws. I said, put them in there. So he had his drill and he put the 4 of these drywall screws, and they haven't been out since.
Wow, that's great. I'm assuming so you put the Goto saddles on there, but I'm assuming when you bought it originally had the traditional 3 barrels on it, right?
Yeah, but you can't intonate those worth a damn.
Right.
So
I guess with all the studio recording, yeah, Brent's guitar has the 6 saddle bridge on it too.
as far as I'm concerned, you got to do that.
Yeah.
For the intonation. They're bad. That's like, you know what they say, you spend half your life tuning a guitar and the other half playing an out-of-tune guitar. So try to keep that down to a minimum as much as possible. The intonation thing, especially when you're doing sessions, everything's got to be bang on. So, but for me, I kind of do that stuff myself, intonating. And so for me, it's the only way you can really get it intonated properly is to have individual saddles.
I just try to not play above the 12th fret, and then it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just stay low, and you'll be in key.
Yeah, just stay down in country corner in the first 3 frets, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So the other thing that you're really known for, and you don't see it anymore. Everybody's into boutique this and that, and old vintage amps, but you play pretty low cost, solid state PVs.
Oh, I know.
No,
I know. I'm the antichrist of most guitar players.
I know. That was just like something you did in high school, and then then you try to get a tube amp. So are they solid state?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, PV and tube bandits. I've had tube amps and stuff in the past. For me, I can't get them loud enough live. They just break up the tube amp. I've yet to play through like a 500-watt tube amp, but I've had trouble with that over the years. Just the way I run my stuff, and they just crap out, and they're high maintenance too. Like my PVs, man, they sound great all the time. They're consistent. They're not susceptible to bad power in a club somewhere that affects tubes and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have to worry about tubes breaking or replacing tubes. It bounces around the back of my car all year round, and I take it out and plug it in, and it turns on and works every time.
So
I like the way they sound. They're punchy and clear and loud and clean, and that's what I like, especially for live. And I've used them on pretty much, any of those albums that I played on that were done in Ontario. It was the PVs on it.
Okay. Wow.
The Arie Pritchett stuff was stuff at the warehouse at the studio. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it was still PV stuff, but it was the PV Tweed amps that were tubes. Do you remember that series that they came out with years ago?
Yeah, they kind of look like...
I think there was a couple of those. But in the studio, it's different. I can use tube amps in the studio because you don't have to be ripping loud. You can get the amp to that real nice sweet spot.
Yeah.
And where it sounds really, real clean still, but that it's working.
You're also known to use a compressor, I think, all the time. I think it's, I know I've seen it kind of Velcroed on top of your effects unit.
I use the compressor more to drive the signal harder into my pedals.
Okay.
When I'm using overdrives or distortions, I can use less gain on them, and they still sound smooth and sustainy because I hit the pedals. Gotcha. I hit the pedals harder with the compressor cranked up.
What is it that you're using? I think it kind of looks like a Line 6 kind of multi-effects board.
The M13 right now, yeah.
Okay. And you've been using
the compressor's first, and it's always on. It's just like a line driver more than anything else.
Gotcha.
Just hits the other pedals harder, makes them sound better.
Which one are you using? It's a Boss one, right?
No, the Line 6 M13.
No, the compressor.
Oh, the compressor, yeah, the Boss CS3. Yeah, the CS3.
Oh, okay, right. And you just kind of got a velcroed on top of your line 6, right?
Yeah, it's just velcroed on top because it stays there. Like I don't not ever use it. So instead of having it kicking around on the floor, it's all one easy to carry package and go.
I mean, your sound is mostly kind of a clean kind of thick tone, a little bit of bite on it, but you're not a heavy effects user. I mean, you're certainly not. You're not the Edge. So, what are you using out of the line 6?
Delays and overdrives and some EQing. Okay. Because of the inconsistency of the volumes and the tones on Telecasters, I have an EQ setting for just the bridge pickup, and then I have another EQ setting for all the other positions on the switch.
Oh, wow.
Because it always, so that when I go to the neck pickup, I switch the EQ so that it's in balance with the back pickup. So, because they're always once, like Strats are terrible for that, right? When you go to the back pickup on a Strat, it's really bright. It's brighter than all the other positions. So I have 2 EQ settings on the pedal board, and one is just for the back pickup alone, and the other one is a slightly thinner EQing sound for all the other positions on the switch. Wow. So no matter what position I go to on the guitar, it's all balanced. So I don't have to go, oh shit, I'm on the neck pickup and go back to the amp and compensate for the tone and brighten it up or something. So
that's really cool, because I mean, I've watched most guitar players, like just hundreds of those Premier Guitar Rig rundowns. I don't think I've ever recalled somebody having preset patches just for EQ, to balance out the pickups. But that just makes a ton of sense.
That's what I do. That's what I do with the main thing. That's why I like multi-effects pedal, because I can do that. I can just, especially like in the studio, you want to be able to pull up sounds quick. You don't want to take up time in there doing that. So if I need to switch position to a neck pickup sound really quick, I can do that. Just hit the other EQ and the balance is the same, and the engineer doesn't have to start, re-EQing the strip in the control room, and it just makes it all easier like that, just to keep everything EQ'd the same when you switch between the positions. I'll EQ the amp to sound good with the bridge pickup, okay, and then when I switch, I'll set the other EQ to do whatever I have to do to change the tone of the other pickup position. So there's only 2 EQ settings. Yeah, okay. One for the bridge pickup, and then one for all the other 4 positions. Because they work out okay. They balance out the other 4. Like I don't have 5 separate EQs for each pickup. I just have the 2. Basically, one for the bridge and one for the rest.
You're a pretty busy full-time guitar player. You kind of got a mix of stuff between live, your session work, and of course and teaching. The live stuff, you got the Western Swing Authority, and you go on tour, I think, with some of the artists that you've recorded with, and you do a lot of local bar stuff. So what would be the mix between live sessions and teaching?
I would probably say maybe 60% live. I don't know, 30% sessions. It depends. It's different.
Yeah.
And it's different now with doing stuff from home. I do a lot more sessions from home now for people too.
So you got a full studio at home?
I've been doing a few more jingles and stuff lately and stuff like that. And
that's great.
So it's kind of a mix. I mean, the teaching isn't huge. I typically teach 1 day a week at a school in Waterloo, when school was in. Yeah. And I've done some lessons. I do some private lessons out of the house and stuff like that. But more of a supplemental thing. But I probably live is the bulk of it.
Right. So you're full. You have a studio in your house, and you'll do.
No, not really. I just have a setup in the basement, Pro Tools rig on a Mac and stuff like that. I don't have a real studio. I don't have a console or anything. I just have a basic kind of setup for just doing overdubs.
So Paul, I know I've kept you on here for a while, and you got probably some other stuff you got to do. Just honored to have you as my second guest for this Guitar Players in Isolation. I mean, I'm a fan, like I said, and I'd put you up there as, I mean, you're my top, or I would say that the top two guitar players in Canada, in my opinion, are you and Steve Petico. So
Oh, well, thanks. Appreciate that. That's good company to keep.
Yeah, Paul, thanks so much. I hope everything, we get through this hunker down thing we're in here.
Yep.
So thrilled that you kind of got a setup at home so you can still keep some work going, doing some studio stuff to keep you busy. And for guys like me, we're hunkered down so we can practice all the time and try to get better. I don't know how much better you can get,
Thanks, man.
You might have hit
I haven't been doing a whole lot of playing, just a bit of noodling around here and there, but for the last couple of weeks anyway, so.
Okay, great stuff, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. Nice talking to you, man. Appreciate it.
all right, Paul. So last favor, if you can show us your isolated guitar lick. All right, take it away, Paul.
Okay, so I've had a couple of people ask me about the the riff over the E chord over the 5 on my Uncle Daddy instrumental thing. It's the one that goes. It's basically like an E7th kind of thing. It just takes up a lot of space because it starts on the open E, the low E. And then the ending lick is and it's so slowed down is. So that's it. Hope that helps somebody out. Stay safe.
Well, there you go. You get an interview with Paul Chapman, and you get him to teach you a lick. All right, you can't ask for too much more. I hope you liked it. I had a ball doing this interview, and I'm hoping that I can do a follow-up one with Paul in person when this whole COVID thing passes by. Anyway, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you could. Just hit that subscribe button, also the notification button, so you get an email telling you when the next video comes out. I've got some great guests that I want to spotlight from the Toronto area, great guitar players. So I should have another video out within the week. Please stay healthy. We'll get through this together. Take care. Bye.